Hey kids, happy Sunday. It's Sunday for me right now. Just some announcements before we move on to our video lesson for today. So we are at week 7 right here. If you can see this, that's where we're at, week 7. So that means we are approaching the end of the quarter, right? So this would just be a good time for you to just make sure your ducks are in a row, check that Power School is accurate. This week we will focus on slopes of lines and equations of lines, so kind of like the bread and butter of Algebra 1. And then next week is a short week. Some of you will only even just see one time, so that's kind of exciting. No school Thursday, Friday, so that's amazing for all of us. And then we will test at the beginning half of our last week of the quarter, and those will be the last grades of quarter 1. Just keep that in mind. Again, just check Power School. You guys are all pretty good about being on top of your homework and things, but I just wanted to make sure we're all aware of where we are sitting in terms of time. That is it, I think, for announcements. So let's move on to our notes here. They should look like this. Slope, that's all we're doing today. This is like I said, the bread and butter of Algebra 1. However, I realize a lot of us, we had the pandemic, right? So I don't really know where some of our algebra classes ended. I don't know how much we focused on slope. So we're just going to take today to become really good at finding slope and identifying what kind of slopes lines have. And then we're going to use that later in the week to write equations of lines. So again, I hope this is a review for you. And if it's kind of challenging, let me know when I see you in class and we can give you some extra examples. Okay, this first part says classifying slope. So we have 4 different kinds of slopes. It can be positive. So do you guys see how it's going from left to right in an upward motion? It's positive. If it's going down from left to right, it is negative. If it's just a horizontal line, that is a 0 slope. And if it's a straight vertical line up and down, it is undefined. I usually abbreviate it as UND, or you could write out undefined. But that's it. We just have 4 different kinds of slope. So we have different ways we can find slope. You can use a graph or like a coordinate grid. This is probably the easiest. I'm going to zoom in quite a bit here so we can look at this together. There we go. So when you're given the actual graph like this, we typically say rise over run. You count how far up you go and how far over. So what's nice about this example here is they give us our points, A and B, and we want to figure out the slope between them. So how many boxes up do we go? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I rose 4. How many do I run? 2, 3, 4, 5. So my slope is 4/5. I went up 4, I ran 5 over. I'm going to shimmy my paper down a bit. Now we're finding the slope from P to Q. So again, you read left to right. So I'm going to start with my leftmost point and go to my rightmost point. I can't go up to get to Q, but I'm going to go down. So I know it's going to be a negative slope. So I went down how many? 1, 2, 3. So I went down 3. How far am I running? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my slope is -3/6. And remember, we always want to reduce when possible. So our slope is really -1/2. And that is that. So we love counting. Counting is the best part about math if we're able to do it. And if you have just the graphs, I would just count. Sometimes they're not going to give you the graphs of your line, so then you would use ordered pairs that they give you. And then we would use the thing called the slope formula. We use M for slope. That is the letter that represents slope in math. And it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Your rise over run. So your y's are on top, your run's on the bottom. It helps you label your ordered pair. So we're finding the slope of line AB. So x1, y1, x2, y2, and now we plug in. So we labeled our y2 as -1 minus our y1 of 5 over our x2 of 6 minus our x1 of -2. And now we just simplify. -1 minus 5 is -6. 6 plus 2 gives me 8. Again, we see that we can reduce, right? So this really reduces to -3 over 4. Done. Let's try another one here. Find the slope of line GH. Again, if you need to label your points, I would do that. Remember, each ordered pair gets an x and a y. Here we go. Our y2 is 7 minus our y1 of -3 over our x2 of -6 minus -11. 7 plus 3 is 10. 6 plus 11 is 5. Divide out and we get a slope of 2. Okay, so again, you can find slope by either counting or by using the slope formula. Now we have some special relationships that exist with our slopes. Parallel lines, remember, are lines that never touch. And why do they never touch, you guys? Well, they never touch because they have the same slope. They increase or their steepness is the same, so they'll never intersect because their rate of change is the same. Remember, perpendicular lines are lines that intersect and form 4 right angles, correct? Perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So what does that mean? Well, you could use the word either opposite here or negative reciprocal. They're kind of interchangeable in that sense. But I will show you some examples of what those slopes would look like. So these opposite reciprocals or negative reciprocal slopes, they're flipped and one has to be positive and one has to be negative. So what do I mean by flipped? Well, do you guys see how this is 3/4? So if I flip that fraction, it would be 4/3. But this is a positive slope, so this one would become negative. So now 3/4 and -4/3 would be opposite reciprocals of each other. One's positive, one's negative, and they're flipped, the reciprocals. So now let's do these examples to see what we would get. So 2 is really over 1, right? So if I were to flip that, it would be 1/2. And then since this is positive, this becomes negative. -7/8. If I flip it, it become 8/7. Since this one's negative, this one gets to be positive. 1, remember, is really over 1. So if I flip it, I still get 1 over 1. But since this is positive, this needs to be negative. Now remember, a zero slope, I'm going to shimmy my paper up here, is just a horizontal line, right? So what would be perpendicular to that? Well, a vertical line would be, right? And what kind of a slope does a vertical line have? Undefined. So that's kind of a goofy one. That's just one you kind of need to remember is weird. So 0 and undefined slopes are negative reciprocals. Again, I realize we're going through this kind of fast. I hope this is a review for you, but if not, again, we will practice a bunch when I see you in class next. Okay, so it says use the slope to determine if the lines A, B, and C, D are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So really what we're doing, folks, is finding the slope of these two lines. So let's start with the slope of AB. So again, we're going to have our y2, which is 6, minus 3 over 2 minus -2. And then if we simplify, we're going to have 3 over 4. So we just found the slope of AB to be 3/4. now let's try and find the slope of CD. Same idea. So we're going to have our y2, so 3 minus 0 over our x2, 3 minus -1. Ooh-hoo-hoo. Look at that, folks. We get 3/4. So if both of my slopes are 3/4, we know that those lines are parallel. They have the same slope. Okay, let's try the next one here. Slope of AB. We're going to have 4 minus 2 over 5 minus 0. 2 over 5. And then if we find the slope of CD, 3 minus 8 over 3 minus 1, -5 over 2. So they're not the same, obviously, right? But can we agree that they're flipped? And one's positive, one's negative, which makes them perpendicular. They're opposite reciprocals. And then just a little application to end out our notes together here. Excuse my typos. The written number should match what your notes say. But it says in 2015, the population of Catville was 240 cats. By 2018, the cat population had increased to 280. If this rate continues, what would you predict the population to be in 2022? So what can we do here? We can actually make ordered pairs of these numbers they give us. So if we think about it, in 2015, what was our population? It was 240. And then in 2018, our population was what? 280. So now we can actually find the slope of this to figure out what our population would be in 2022. So let's find our slope, our rate of change. So we're going to have 280 minus 240 all over 2018 minus 2015. 280 minus 240 is just 40. 2018 minus 2015 would be 3. If we divide out, we get 13.3, but we can't have 0.3 of a cat, so let's just round down to 13. So about every year, we get about 13 cats. So now we got to think, how many years are between 2018 and 2022? Well, 2019, 2020, 21, 22. So there are 4 years between 2018 and 2022. So 4 times 13 gives us 52 cats. What was our population in 2018? It was 280. So 280 plus 52 gives us 332 cats. Okay. Thanks, kids, for watching. I will see you in class next. Have a super rest of your day.